Hello, everyone, and welcome to Health and Fitness Redefined. I'm your host, Anthony Amen. Join me today as we take a dive into the world of health and fitness, where we learn how to overcome adversity, depict fact versus fiction, and see health and fitness in a whole new light. I hope you guys enjoyed last week's episode, our first ever quick tip episodes. I figured I'd give it a change. We've been doing this show for just about 3 years now, so I wanted to throw something short, sweet, digestible that you can take home with you and not have to listen to a 45-minute show. I know what you guys love hearing my voice, but that quick little segment, I really hope you enjoyed it. Send me some feedback. I would love to hear from you guys. You can always reach me at anthonyamenfitness@gmail.com or healthfitnessredefinedpodcast@gmail.com. I'll take some requests if you want to hear something more specific about different types of topics you want me to jump into real quick. Let me know, and I look forward to hearing from you guys soon. Without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Nate. Nate, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on today.
Thanks a lot. I'm glad to be here.
I really like having different podcast hosts on. You're not our first or second, so this is an intriguing way to get somebody who does a fitness podcast, who hears. I think you said you had 81 episodes out right now.
That's right. Yeah. This week it will be 81. Yep.
So yeah, 81 different stories that we get to now take and digest into a single episode. So that sounds pretty exciting to me. Yeah, we'll try. But before we kind of do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the fitness industry?
Oh man, how far back do you want me to go? I was born in 1982. No, I'm just kidding. So my background was in human resources. I worked for a pretty big retail company, and I loved helping people. And it got to be 2007, 2008, and it just wasn't fun anymore. And I always loved fitness. I loved helping people with fitness. And so I talked with my awesome wife, and I said, hey, I got this corporate job, but I would love to starve for a little while and start a fitness company. I'd be a personal trainer. And she was like, yes, you should do that. I can see you doing that. That would be great. So that's what I did. Yeah. And I, not a decision that a lot of people probably would have made, but I think at that time in our life, we were willing to take on something new. And anyway, had my own business for about a year, got in with a really cool, much more successful business that was already established, and then was able to help other trainers. I kind of look at it as I got to do the HR stuff and the managerial stuff, but also do the personal training, working with people, one-on-one as well with their fitness goals, as well as help to lead a staff. So got the best of both worlds in the end.
Nice. So just HR, dealing with people on a day-to-day basis in an office, 9-to-5 job, kind of pushed you into the fitness realm. What about yourself? What made you start wanting to work out?
Oh, Anthony, do you want the real story?
Yeah. I don't want to fake one.
So it's funny because I was just thinking that the other day, and I can't remember what triggered it. So girls, to be honest, right? Like I was in my, so a lot of the sports I played, we didn't have high school teams. So I didn't have like a big background like a lot of people do with athletics and training. I was into tennis and hockey. We didn't have tennis and hockey teams. I didn't have access to that. So it was all pickup games and playing with friends and stuff like that where I lived. And so I started working out in my teens. I can remember there was a girl that I thought was just gorgeous. I was just like, I was in my late teens. I just remember this girl as like, wow. But she told her friend that I was too scrawny for her to be interested in. And so her friend relayed that information to me. And I was like, no, that's not going to be the reason I don't get the girl that I want. I know this is super like cliche, but
No,
I
this is
started working.
perfect because this is a lot of people, but they just don't say it.
Yeah, I'm being totally honest. So I was always very skinny, and then I'm like, I'm gonna put on some weight, I'm gonna put on some muscle. Started working out in my garage at home. My parents were like, fine, we won't park the cars in the garage. You can have your bench and your weights and whatever. So and then I just of course fell in love with it like we do, and got some results, and talked to the guys at GNC, figured out how to use supplements and whatever. And that was my path in, and then I loved it. Of course, I don't think I ever talked to that girl ever again anyway, but fitness for me then was really part of my entire adult life after that. Even with office jobs or whatever, I was like, I got to get home, I got to work out, or I got to get to the gym, I want to work out. It was just a big part of what I did and who I was at that point.
Yeah, it almost just becomes addicting. And I was telling my wife this yesterday. It was on my off day, and I get one of those a week. And I was like, I need to work out today. She's like, you're going to
There
go
you
to
go.
your gym on your off day? I was like, yeah, but it's
Oh,
different.
you do, man. I
I was like,
started
it's,
working out at home for being in the gym too much. I was like, I fell in love with working out at home just to have that time to myself. So hats off to you for going
yeah,
back in.
I just had to. I mean, the gym was closed, and she was with me, and I was like, just come hang out in the gym. And
Okay,
she just hung out, and I just worked out. And I was like, that was a great workout. No one harassed me. I got the blast music, and
nice.
I feel so much better.
Yeah, awesome.
So it just does something to you. So I guess I'll just segue with that is what's something you feel like you've learned that have gotten people to that addiction stage? Like what at what point does it stop being oh, I gotta work out to oh my god, I need to work out?
Ooh, I think that's a great question. I think that's like a man. I was gonna say it's $1 million question, but I think it's more than probably worth more than that. Um, I think for some people, and this might be the wrong place to start the answer, but I think honestly, for some people, it never happens. In my experience, and just being honest, I think that it's a well, BJ Fogg, he's the author of Tiny Habits. He says certain habits in our life are like uphill habits, and they're going to be difficult. They're going to be hard work, and I think for some people it just always is. Not that that's a reason not to do it. um it's easier if you like veggies, right? But you still need to eat them whether you love the taste or not. It's the best way to be healthy. So it's the same with working out, but for some people it's that the working out just never becomes a flavor that they just crave, and so they do it because they know it's the best way to take care of themselves. I think for others, you get to this point, and you mentioned the podcast. I've talked with some of our clients that have gotten really good results, and I hear the same language that they start using is that they get to the point where they want to see what they are capable of.
Hmm.
And I think when that switch gets flipped, when you start realizing that you have some you can exercise some influence, you can have some control over the way your body treats you back, or the way your body responds. When you start to feel like, hey, I do this and then I get a result, I can do this, I get another result, you get excited and you start saying like, what's possible for me now that I understand this process a little bit. um, and I think that it's still a very unique thing. It's not like everyone's going to go sign up for a competition or something, but it's like a kid. When we're kids, we don't try to be the fastest runner. We just are like, time me, see how fast I can run around the house or whatever, right? It's just fun. It's just like, okay, I'm going to beat that time. I'm going to see if I can beat that one. And you just get excited about what you are capable of, what your body's capable of. And I think that when people get to that point, it's like, we're done. You're good. You're the fire's lit, and it's going to stay burning for a really long time once you get into that mode. So I don't know if we can communicate that to people and it will help them get to that point quicker, or if it's just honestly, just some people, it's like some people love spinach, and hey, awesome. Now that you love it, keep having it. Now that you love exercise, keep doing it. And for some people, it's always going to be a little bit more difficult. They need a little more support. They need a little more hand holding, and that's okay. It still needs to happen. And so my hope is that they learn that that's what they need, and they get what they need in order to do what they need to do to stay healthy.
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess, the easier answer, just based upon what you said, is if you love competition.
Yeah.
If you're someone that thrives under playing sports and you're like, "Ah, I missed that. Darn it, I missed that basket. Next time I'm going to get it."
Yeah.
And then you just kind of practice that and end up getting better. And then that sport becomes addicting. It's kind of the same way with fitness. It's in that same level. Other people just don't have that competitive nature.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
personally, and I want to hear your response to this, is I've had an understanding after doing this for so long, the people that don't like things because they say they're not competitive, and I'm going to put that in like quotation marks, is because they just personally believe that they're never going to be good enough to be good at it.
Hmm.
So they just take that thought and then just throw it around like I'm not competitive instead of saying
Right.
I just don't believe in myself enough. So that might be that same case with working out, where maybe it's because it's not that they'll just never love it, they just will never believe in themselves enough with it, like they do with other aspects of their life, and then that ultimately makes it non-addicting in that kind of habit forming way.
Yes. I agree. I'm with you. I think that as I was listening, I thought about the book. There's a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. I don't know if you've come across that one, Anthony.
No, not yet.
Um, but basically, the theory is, or what the findings are, that there's two different kinds of mindsets, and they talk about them in the book. One is a growth mindset, which turns out to be the one that ends up serving you the best. We could imagine, right? And the other is like a fixed mindset, and the um, those that tend not to be competitive, I think you're right. They say they're not because they don't want to lose. So why play the game if I'm going to lose? That's kind of a fixed mindset. Um, you know, common thing with people with fixed mindsets. So I think that may be the case with fitness. There's like, I don't want to be bad at it, so I'm not even going to try at it. Or they feel like they're competing against other people or of the fitness models or whatever, or they don't have a good understanding of that whole industry and how it actually works. And so they think I can't do that. So I'm not even going to try it because I'm going to lose. I'm afraid to lose. I'm afraid to fail. So the easiest way is for me to just say like, it's just not me. I don't want to do it. But it's in the end, I think it's that fixed mindset. It's just a fear of failure, and a fear of being uncomfortable, and not necessarily saying, "Hey, I know I can figure this out. I can learn whatever I want to learn. I can do this. I can be better than I used to be at least." And that's the name of the game. And I think for people that grasp that, I'm only working with against myself, if that's even true, right? I'm just doing my best with what I have today, with the energy I have, with the resources I have. But if I don't give my best, I'm not comfortable with that. That's a tends to be a little bit healthier, I think, approach to exercise and fitness. Um,
How would you change someone's mindset, or just it is impossible? It has to be all them making that decision.
Super
Tough
question.
questions today.
I think I got a lot of thinks. I got a lot of thoughts, Anthony. So don't be afraid. I think the first thing is being aware of it, right? You have to, and that's why it's like, um, a book like that is like, okay, there's fixed mindset and there's growth mindset. And is there really one, or the other? Are we all somewhere in between, right? We're probably all somewhere in between. But when we can start labeling things like that, that helps us to start kind of sorting through ourselves a little bit. Now that we know those two polar opposites exist, we can start to identify how they're showing up in our lives. So I think that's the first thing to help someone maybe change. And I do believe change is possible, for everybody. Um, is just becoming aware of how it's showing up in their life. Is this a growth mindset? Is it a fixed mindset? And which would I prefer in this instance when it comes to fitness specifically? And what does that one look like?
I like it. I kind of see where you're going with that. I want to move on a little bit,
Yeah.
and I want you to give me one of your thoughts on this. Is what do you think the most current reason people are or are not getting into gyms now? Like I'm talking, it's October 2022.
Yep.
Why do you see an influx with others and not see it with the other population? And what are the difference between those two populations that are going to them or not going to the gym?
Oh man. Is this versus like prior
Years.
situations,
Yeah.
pre-COVID, or
Prior everything.
hmm.
Pre last year, pre 2020, just kind of what, even start with the last 5 years.
Yeah.
It's like 5 years ago, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of when I got started with my own company. There was a different type of clientele that would come to the gym than those that are coming now.
What were they? What's different about them? Can I ask you a question back?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the fun part about this.
What do you notice as like the difference between the people that are in the gym then versus now?
The biggest difference, a lot of people got scared into coming now. That's the biggest driver. A lot more people cared prior 5 years ago, so 2017. It was a lot more about looks. It was a lot more about wanting to have those abs and wanting to impress that girl. To where now I'm noticing it's I need to do it for my mental state. I need to do it because it's the right thing to do. And you're starting to see that kind of paradigm shift into people. And I think the biggest one is mental. For the first time ever, people are actually understanding the benefits for their mental health of finally coming to the gym and working out for that reason. And it's less aesthetics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I know. As you're saying that, I'm like, okay, yes, I've seen that there. I don't know how they're just like these people. They always worked out. They're always going to work out. Maybe we used to call them like gym rats or whatever, right? They're sorry.
It's okay.
There's just a lot of them, right? And now it's a little bit more. It's a more diverse group, right? There's people there for a lot of different reasons. There's the guys there that are just doing the curls, and then there's people that are there to, I think, take better care of themselves, actually pursue self-care to, and maybe like you said, maybe it's not about losing body fat or looking ripped. It's about honoring their body in a better way than what they have been doing before, and putting effort into that. So yes.
I'll add to an example is I'm actually seeing more men come than women. And especially in the personal training realm, and that's a huge difference. So a lot of men will just join gyms and go work out, but I'm seeing an uptick in the amount of men that are signing up for personal training, which is a huge accomplishment because most of the time that didn't happen. It was rare to see men sign up for personal training 5, 6, 7 years ago, unless they were professional athletes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. It is a different, it's a different world, and I guess I'm happy that that's on people's radar, is the benefits that come from exercise. We'll just say exercise, working out, being in the gym for somebody's mental health. We've got a good amount of people that, whatever it is that initially brings them in the door, they stay for the community, for the social aspect, which I think is also an aspect of mental health, obviously, right? Is that this becomes a community, a supportive place with other people that are trying to improve, and they're anchored in because of that. So there's a lot of different motivations now that, whether it's pandemic or whatever it is, people just becoming a little bit more aware of how important their mind is. and taking care of themselves emotionally, as well, and the physical role that that there's an influence there between their physical body and their emotional well-being, their mental stability. They're aware of that connection now, maybe more than ever. Do you think that's because of pandemic, because of being alone, because
Absolutely.
of yeah
100%.
yeah
I think people are starting to realize how important community is and how important it is to have other people around you in your life. And then that getting taken away really set that emotion to come back and to join things are all about community. And gyms have always been about community. I
yeah
You go to the gym with friends. You go to the gym to go talk to that person. You go to the gym to go meet that girl. You go to the gym to whatever. Now you're going and you're inviting your mom, your dad, your sister, and you fall in love with it. And you're like, oh, the gym's doing this kind of party. I'm going to that. So gyms have always been community, but gyms getting more in community now are not that center for people to come to. And
yeah
I think that's a huge accomplishment in our industry and something I'm really proud that people reaching out to us for. And I'm
yeah
happy that that's happening because it's showing that it's just more than just about doing some bicep curls.
mhm,
It's so much more to what we do than that.
yeah yeah we've talked about that a lot too. Trying trying to make decisions that help the gym, the fitness center, to be the third place in people's lives, with home, work, and then what's the third place? And for a lot of people it was the coffee shop or whatever, and there's a switch now to people saying, well, if I'm going to have another place, it should be one that is serving me in a real way, in a way that leaves me truly better in the end. And so they're making the choice to do it with fitness, then they're going to find what they're looking for.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I'm going to take a quick break for our sponsor, and we're going to come back. And when we come back, I want to get into specifics about people you've had on your show and really talk about different things that you've learned from different guests you've had and different shows you've been on, and really share some experiences of some take-home messages for our listeners.
Sounds good.
So we'll see you guys on the flip side, and we'll be right back. For us, we know what it's like to feel unhealthy, depressed, and downright defeated. We want to show others there is a right way, and through fitness, you could do anything you set your mind to. Fitness can give you that motivation, confidence, energy you need to bridge that mental gap and prevent you from missing important life events. We understand it's about feeling better, living longer, and being good examples for our kids. We understand this because we live it. And for us, that's the redefined difference. Hey, everybody, and welcome back. We have Nate here. We were talking a lot pre-break about the different changes that people had going on about with the gym, the difference of habits. So I'm going to get a little more specifics about his show because he does have over 80 episodes out. So why not learn from him? So I'm going to ask you just some general questions, and I'm going to start
Yeah.
with my favorite, which is, what was your favorite episode to do, and what did you learn from it?
Oh boy. Mm.
A
You
hard one.
know, can you dial that in at all for me, Anthony? I want to say my favorite episode, man. Um, I think it's always the one I'm working on. I just, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited every week to bring what we have, um, and to have talked to the professional in the health realm. And so I'm always excited to share those messages. I'm not sure a favorite one. We've had some returning guests. I guess now that I'm stalling a little and coming up with an answer. We've had some returning guests. I think having them back on is always super interesting because I always feel like your first answer, um, I should be careful now because you're asking me questions, but I feel like someone's first answer, their first appearance, it's a little bit, it tends to be a little more polished, and it's a little bit more of like well, that was, yeah, that's obvious, right? Like they just say the thing they're supposed to say, kind of. And when they come back on, we get the chance to like dig in a little bit. We had some of our professionals this last 6 months who came on, who are mothers, because a lot of our listeners are mothers, with children. They're trying to do fitness, they're trying to lose weight, whatever it is, but they're also like, hey, I'm juggling a ton of stuff.
I think
And so
who did you have on?
we had so oh, you're gonna make me have some names here, bro.
Because I just did one a few weeks ago with two women.
Yeah, keep
What are
going.
the odds?
Yeah, no, I had, so like, Amanda Zagrodnik, she's been on a couple of times. Let me see. We've had Mandy Holden, um, Dr. Orlina Carrick, actually, Bijou Sukumaran. Now that I see his name, he's been on a couple times. He's not a mother, um, but uh, having them, the moms specifically, I think was cool, because we got to, the first time they were on there, talk about their business and their concepts and how they help their clients, etc. But the next time was, how do you do this? How do you do this in your life? How do you make it work for you? And so we got some really real conversations about, this is someone who others look to as an example in health and fitness and nutrition. How are they making meals for their families? Like, what are the secrets? Like, how do they do it? And so those were some fun episodes, because they really were open about, um, the fact that they're not perfect, and they don't have to be, and they know that. And I think that was a really important message for people to hear, is, um, perfection is not attainable. Don't try, but be balanced. And sometimes you're gonna have a pizza for dinner. And they realize that they have kids, or just being real, I think, is so important in the process of getting healthier and even pursuing fitness goals.
Yeah, I gotta say I agree because I see clients obviously they run into you because you live in the same areas, right? So you're just I've met a pizzeria and someone's like, "Wow, you're having 3 slices of chicken parm pizza." Yeah, I am. What do you mean? Yes.
Yeah,
They're just blown away. They're just, oh, I
gotta
thought I
live,
just ate
right? Yeah,
salads every day. I was like, no, it's about balance, you know? I'm not doing this
yeah,
every night, but when I want a beer and pizza, I'm having a beer and pizza.
yeah, yeah. We do Friday fish fry around here. I don't know if that's probably not a thing by you, but in Wisconsin, huge. You say Friday fish fry, everybody knows what you're talking about. It's like fish and chips. Is, I think, if restaurants serve that, it's the same idea. It's battered fried fish, French fries. It's like one of my favorite Friday night dinners. And so, yeah, I talked to our group about it. Hey, I'm doing it. They're like, what? Yeah, absolutely. You got to have fun. You got to live. And I think that's part of being healthy. Um, you can stick to the plan or the diet or whatever all you want, and you could still have a very unhealthy approach that eventually is going to wear you out. But if you really truly have a healthy mindset, that that's not gonna it's not gonna ruin anything. In fact, it might help you kind of feel like, all right, that was fun. I'm ready to get back at it the next day.
Yeah, that's exactly it. What's something, is there anything that throughout the episodes you've done that you've actually implemented in your own life?
Oh, good. I love these questions, bro. These are awesome. Yeah. I mean, a lot of things. I think one, this is gonna sound silly, because being a trainer for so many years, and we had a guest on that. A question I always ask is, what would you recommend someone do to begin? Like, it's called Begin Within is the podcast, right? So begin. Like, let's say someone's listening and they're just like, I got to get started. I'm ready finally. What's the first step? Doctor so and so, therapist so and so. What would you recommend they actually do today to get going? And one of those was after everything we talked about, she's like, okay, we didn't talk about this, but she's like, you got to drink water. Start there. And I was like, why? Tell me about that. She's like, drinking water, getting hydrated is super easy, and it gives you an almost instantaneous return on that action. And that's super important in the process of fitness, because so many of the things we do them and we know they're not going to make a difference for a long time, right? I work out, get on the scale tomorrow, I'm not lighter. I eat a salad, get on the scale tomorrow, I didn't lose any weight. But if you drink water, you're going to feel so much better just within a few minutes. So that was one of the things is, and I love hydration. I've understood that, but when it came to communicating it to my clients, it became a much bigger priority for me to make sure that they understood how important, not because of the, the fitness benefits of hydration, but actually the immediate return on energy and even feeling more positive and just your body feeling better just from having a glass of water. So that was a big one. Getting sunlight was another big one, making sure that you spend some time outside. I didn't realize, and I would work or I'm in the gym for sometimes I never saw the sun except for out the window, because we start training so early, and then obviously train into the evenings. And it was on a topic about sleep, adjusting your sleep cycle, your sleep schedule, and the recommendation was as soon as you can in the day, get the sun on your face, get it on your skin, get outside, soak it up a little bit, and that's going to actually help you sleep better is what I learned. And absolutely true. Absolutely. So that was another big one. And I think if there's a third, if you don't mind, that comes to
Yeah,
mind
go
for me,
for it.
would be having I would call it like a square meal, like a balanced meal, um, with protein, healthy fat, carbohydrates, and veggies. All four of those different, maybe we call them food groups or macronutrients. That's how we break them down anyway, is a protein, healthy fats, carbohydrates, and then veggies. And the benefit that comes to your body from having all those different energy sources all in the same meal. Before I would just be like, hey, protein shake. I'm good. I'm good to go. Client, you're hungry? Have protein, just have a protein shake, right? Like that's a personal trainer's answer to everything. And it sounds so silly because it's simple, right? It's basic. It's just have a square meal. It will do so much for you in terms of how you're feeling satisfied, the energy that you have. So when you feel hungry, instead of just grabbing like a cheese stick or whatever, have something that where each of those food groups is represented. It'll make a big difference in how you feel for the rest of the day.
Love it. Yeah, the only one that I think you were missing on my end, because I'm ticking the boxes in my head, was sleep. Sleep's my number one.
Yeah.
Yours is water, mine's get enough sleep. I don't care if you're working out, not working out. I don't care what the heck you do. If you're not sleeping enough,
Yeah. That, you know why, Anthony? Because that's been kind of not an obsession, not an unhealthy obsession, but something I'm really interested in, and I have been for a long, long time. So, but yeah, I've asked doctors too. What's the first thing that you would want someone to focus on to improve their health? And despite everything that they do for people, everything that they help their patients with, they're just like, you know what? If there was one thing, it's sleep. Get a solid schedule going. The time you go to bed, the time you wake up is the same each day, and you have at least 8 hours of sleep opportunity. That was the thing. So some of the doctors that we've had on the show have said that, and um, and it makes so much sense because we want so much out of ourselves, out of our bodies, out of our minds. In a day, we want to excel. We want to be great. We want to be good leaders. We want to be good at our jobs, good husbands and wives and mothers and fathers. But we all know if somebody doesn't have enough sleep, what like they'll say like I'm grumpy. I didn't get enough sleep. We know for a kid, a smaller child, they can just be throwing a tantrum, and what does the parent say? Like, sorry everybody, they haven't slept. they didn't get a good night's sleep or whatever. We know that, but as adults, we're pushing ourselves. We're not getting enough sleep, and we expect that there aren't going to be consequences. There are consequences the next morning to what's happening inside our brains. We're not going to make the same decisions that we would have if we didn't have a good night's sleep. So super important, especially when we're trying to make habit changes, health changes, make big changes in our lives. We've got to approach it with the best possible hardware and software in place, right? And sleep does that better than anything else. Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. I'm going to ask you another hard question. Have you ever disagreed with any advice you were given, and why?
Disagreed with advice that I was
Or
given just
just
in
disagreed
my
with
entire life.
on your podcast specifically? Has there
Oh, on the
any
podcast.
topics of advice that you actually have disagreed with?
You know, I don't know if I go so far as saying disagree. I have definitely I have this I guess I have obviously, as you can already tell, I have my own ideas, right? And as a podcast host, I'm asking other people their ideas like you're doing for me. So there have definitely been times where I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily subscribe to that same. So I think a lot of times it's in the realm of self care, and I guess because or maybe self love. I know this is you just opened a can of worms when you asked me that question, bro.
Yes.
Um, and I'll just say self care because I think that that's a little bit easier to. It's a little more palatable. But it sometimes I think, and especially in the world that we live in now, I think people can get confused about what real self care is because I think sometimes we care for ourselves maybe the way we'd care for a puppy, and it's like, oh, it's whining, let's see what it needs, let's do this, let's do that, let's make sure it's comfy. And in the end we're not, oh, it needs another treat, so we give another treat, and in the end it's not actually the thing that the little puppy really needs. And I think we sometimes we could treat ourselves that way, right? Is where it's a very, I would say, like sentimental approach to self-care. Like just whatever it takes to appease my feelings right now is what I need to do. And it's not a long range self-care, because the reality is there are things we can do now that feel good that are going to hurt us down the line.
Should I have that gallon of ice cream now? I'll feel good
So
eating
yeah, so
it.
then I would argue that is not self-care. Right? Whatever you're doing now that might feel good, but it's going to hurt you. Research shows it's going to hurt you. Experience shows it's going to hurt you. The world around you shows it's going to hurt you if you do it. Then it's not self-care. And I think that we can get confused on it. And so I've had some guests on that are big and I'm like, take the bath, and I love some of that, but in the end, I'm a little bit more of a do the right thing is the caring thing, the truly right thing to do. That's going
I
to
think
benefit.
this is the answer to your question. And stop me if I'm wrong, please, but it's a world of instant gratification.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wrong.
Yeah. If we're not careful, we can just fall, we fall victim to it. And when it comes to health and fitness, it's a long range focus that we need to have on the decisions that we're making. So, and there's obviously a balance, right? We can't push ourselves to the point where we're gonna break, but um, there aren't a lot of people that are pushing themselves so hard when it comes to health and wellness that they're gonna break. It's the other areas of life they're pushing so hard on that makes them break. So, kind of just acknowledging that and finding the true, I guess, meaning of what's really best for you, what's really self-care.
Yeah, I like that one because you live in a world where, oh, how do you word this? It's too floofy. I guess this is the lack of the better word. And what I mean by that is people think they deserve everything without having to work for it. And
Yeah.
then that plays a role into their mental state, which then plays a role into their physical state because I deserve to be fit and not have to work out 5 days a week for half an hour and sweat. And it's unfair you are. You don't see what I do the other
Right.
hours of the day. Like, we don't live the same life. Where unfortunately, what I've learned, and this might answer if you ever have me on one of my answers, a lot of people who I've interviewed on my show, the biggest, it's not benefit, but one of the best things that's sick and thinking that it's a good thing is having something so bad happen in their lives. Something that just took them to the lowest of the lows. That moment has always turned out to be one of the best things to happen in their lives. And that's always propelled them to do. We learn at the bottom. At the bottom, if we can learn to pick ourselves up, get our bootstraps back on, and go, then all of a sudden what happens is we start things just become easier.
Yeah.
And we start doing things for us better for the long run. We start setting that path as opposed to people who never had those experiences. And not like I would never wish it upon anyone, but it's just, how do we teach them without having them to go through those things like I had to go through, and other people on my show had to go through, because I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But that's when I learned. That's when I got my life back together. We're at those moments.
The rock bottom moment. Yeah. I hope. Yeah. It's like you hope for people that they get there. And it doesn't always have to be traumatic. It just has to be that place where they're absolutely determined to never go back there. Right. And it could be circumstances that they caused, someone else caused, or it could just be a place mentally they just get to. They just get frustrated and fed up. And I think it can be a one-time event, or it can be just a cycle that we recognize. And you were talking about that earlier, of just like doing something and then I feel bad. I feel good, but then I feel bad for days about that ice cream or whatever. Then I do it again, and it's okay. At some point, hopefully, I recognize that cycle, and I say I'm done with the cycle, and that can become a rock bottom moment where we're just never going to go back there again. We're just determined to avoid it. So we're going deep here. This is fitness, right?
No, it is, because it's overrated. I mean, look where it starts from. It starts from when we're kids, right? When we're kids, what happens is you always hear it from professional athletes. I was the worst kid on the team, or I wasn't good at this and we didn't get first place, and it bothers me to this day. And that's why I work so damn hard, because I never want to come in second place ever again in my life. And that's why they keep pushing themselves and eventually become NBA or NFL stars, because they had that competitive spirit. And instead of somebody saying, here's a participation trophy, everyone's a winner, they didn't want that. They were told, no, go, let's get first place, work for it, and you can get it. Where I think a big problem now is everyone's getting participation trophies and everybody's a winner. So why would I bother picking myself back up? Why would I bother teaching myself values? Why would I bother digging inside to find something in order to help push me to the next level, where I can then use that throughout the rest of my life, instead of just hoping things come to me? Now I don't need to work for them, and I need to push harder, because life, I don't know if you can see, I have Rocky quote right there. So nothing hits harder than life.
There it is.
There it is. Nothing hits harder than life. And it's just so true. Life is going to kick you on your ass, and hope to God you stay there. And you just got to learn just to pick yourself back up and do it yourself and get back up and going.
Yeah. It's amazing to go through the process and watch other people go through it, because you realize how resilient humans are. We're very resilient creatures. And I think, fitness is one of those areas of life where you're going to be tested. You're going to have to tap into that resilience at some point. It's not a smooth ride for anybody. And so we have our ups, we have our downs, and we're all going to have those times where we're feeling frustrated with results or whatever it is, but we're resilient. We can bounce back every single time, right?
Totally agree. Absolutely. I'm going to start wrapping this up, Nate.
Sounds
So I'm
good.
going to ask you the final two questions I ask everybody, which is if you were to summarize this episode in one or two sentences, what would be your take-home message?
Summarize this one. I think fitness, I mean, we haven't talked a lot about working out, right? It's been about kind of some of those other things that influence it, and also a lot of mindset talk, I think, that we kind of ended up with here. So I think, how about this? Begin within.
Where did you get that one from? But I do love it. And that kind of leads into the second question, which is the easiest of them all. How can people get a hold of you and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So beginwithin.fit is the website. I'm on Instagram. And then our podcast is everywhere, which is the Begin Within podcast.
I love it, Nate. And thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Health and Fitness Redefined. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button and join us next week as we dive deeper into this ever-changing field. And remember, fitness is medicine. Until next time.